I presume you're here in order to learn of Magecraft. I'll have you know, there's no room for the weak-willed in this course, and despite your best efforts, the sorcery of our time is but a fraction of what it once was in the Age of Gods. Much of the craft is established through pedigree, and the culture of mages is riddled with deception and moral depravity. That said, if you insist, I shall do my best to educate you in this miserable, yet fascinating world. In our previous lesson, I covered mage pedigree, the process whereby mages pass their abilities on to later generations. While mage families can try to maximize the potency of their children, the quality and number of magic circuits a child is born with can still fluctuate. In other words, one's potential as a mage is a genetic anomaly. It can be passed on, but it's not guaranteed. For today's lesson, I want to cover a similar concept. Like all creatures, humans are born with mutations, some helpful and others detrimental, such as the nature of evolution. Some mutations affect the brain, causing it to perceive the world in a unique way. People with such a condition are referred to as psychics, and their abnormal abilities are called extrasensory perception, or ESP. By and large, psychic abilities are a type of mystery, just like Magecraft. Rather than controlling mana, psychics are able to see and understand aspects of the world that fall outside of common sense. This allows them to manipulate reality in a similar manner to Magecraft, but while the results may look the same, such abilities arise from different sources. Unlike Magecraft, which can be taught to anyone with magic circuits, psychic abilities are innate. Psychics can learn to harness and control their abilities, but they can only do so with a baseline talent to build off from. This innate talent is acquired in one of two ways. As I mentioned earlier, ESP is a mutation in the brain. On a genetic level, this means children can inherit those mutated genes from their parents. Think of this as a factor for potential or compatibility. Fujino Asagami, for instance, inherited her family's telekinetic abilities. This created a unique dilemma, as her father, head of the Asagami demon hunters, did not want her to have ESP, deeming it unnecessary in modern society. He deemed her an unfit existence and tried to suppress her powers through medication. Additionally, some psychics acquire their abilities through some sort of alteration or injury to the brain. This process is not genetic and therefore cannot be passed on. This can be seen with the mystic eyes of death perception acquired by both Shiki Nanaya and Shiki Ryogi after each of them incurred near fatal injuries. They initially struggled with this new power, unable to suppress the lines of death permeating from every corner of their vision. In Nanaya's case, he was given a special pair of glasses, the Mystic Eye Killers, allowing him to choose when to activate his eyes. As for Shiki Ryogi, she was able to take control of her powers through coaching from Toko Aozaki. It's worth noting that the strongest forms of ESP arise from a combination of these two methods. After all, not everyone who suffers brain damage is gifted with psychic abilities. Rather, the Shikis had an existing affinity they inherited from their demon hunter families. Going back to Fujino Asagami, her innate telekinesis became amplified by a strike to her spine, giving her mystic eyes of distortion. Her ability to bend and dismember matter was the product of a genetic predisposition and a traumatic injury. Since this is both rare and random, one cannot hope to acquire mystic eyes in this fashion. They are not typical eyes which can be extracted and traded, since their value comes more from the user's own brain. While it is of no practical merit, some people consider ESP to be proof of humanity's collective unconscious. Alaya, the planet's will to protect humanity, marks humans as both part of and separate from nature. In that regard, a psychic is the most unnatural of humans. This made psychics ideal for hunting down monsters. I already have a previous lesson dedicated to the Demon Hunter organization, but for now, realize that demon hunting families are the primary users of ESP, taking great effort to cultivate and pass down their talents. The Ryogi family has an innate talent that they use to develop dual personalities. It is their effort to master two skills at a time, which they believe is impossible with a single persona. Theirs is a risky endeavor, as some members of the family either fail to develop that second personality or they find themselves unable to regulate their two halves. In the worst-case scenario, Ryogi heirs become murderous beasts. The Nanaya family cultivated a psychic ability of pure eyes through incest. members would be able to perceive spiritual forces, as well as see intentions and emotions through color. In Shiki's case, he was even able to view his sister Akiha's demonic origami hair. The Fujo family has an affinity for synchronization, a psychic ability to transfer energy through the exchange of bodily fluids. The young maids Hisui and Kohaku were coveted for this ability, taken in by the Tono family to suppress the demonic impulses of Makihisa and Akiha Tono. The Fujo's heir, Kirie, has a psychic ability that lets her perceive spirits, though it results in her being blind to the physical world. The Asagami family and their telekinetic abilities trace back to the larger Asakami family, who once used ESP as shrine maidens to communicate with gods. Demon hunters are far from the only psychics. Clairvoyance and precognition are a form of psychic ability that pertains to retaining more information than necessary. As human society became more elaborate, we began disregarding excess stimuli in order to survive. Those who still have that memory retention can more intuitively understand their surroundings, as well as predict future events based on observed trends. This allows an otherwise ordinary girl like Shizune Seo to accurately predict the future at random. Others, like Mitsuru Kamekura, are able to calculate the future by first imagining a desired future and evaluating what it would take to realize that future. While it may not be fair to bring up, given that he's a machine, it's interesting to note that Xiang Yu's swift processing capabilities amount in the same result as precognition. Through telepathic connections, it is also possible for psychics to perceive the past through accumulating memories. Arguably less helpful would be the masochistic spiritualist constitution possessed by Karen Hortensia. It is an extremely bizarre psychic condition whereby Karen's body mimics the effects of people who are possessed by demons. It is masochistic because her suffering can be used to detect the presence of demons. Born to the unremarkable Kokuto family, Asaka Kokuto has a psychic disposition toward pyrokinesis. More specifically, she can cause spontaneous combustion, invoking it like a spell, even though she lacks magic circuits. It is powerful enough that Asaka becomes the apprentice of Toko Aozaki in order to control her ability. In that endeavor, she utilizes a mystic code called the Salamander Skin Gloves, which amplify her ability. When she combusts a target, she doesn't rely on Magecraft, but rather a combination of scientific theories. First, there is charged corpus theory, which posits that the human body produces electricity based on psychological activity. Then there is electromagnetism, which attributes spontaneous combustion to the release of electrons in the atmosphere. In Asaka's case, she is able to create an electric current in her mind that stimulates the electrons around her. Thanks to Toko's instruction, Asaka has learned to channel her pyrokinesis through music, chanting notes as an incantation. One final example I would like to give deals with dead apostles. These vampiric creatures, when they consume the blood of others, turn their victims into ghouls to serve them. At the lowest levels, said ghouls are mindless, completely dominated by their bloodlust. Some dead apostles, however, have the mental disposition to rise the ranks, and even rival their master to become vampires all their own. Satsuki Yumizuka, an otherwise normal girl, possesses a psychic disposition that makes her well suited to vampirism. When her blood is sucked, she immediately becomes an independent vampire, untethered to her parent. It is said that only 30 or so humans in the entire world have this psychic ability. In summation, psychic abilities, or ESP, appear and function like Magecraft, but originate from unique brain mutations and traumas, rather than the inheritance of magic circuits. This generally means that psychic abilities are not passed on from one generation to the next, with the exception of demon-hunting families that intentionally cultivated their genetic affinity for it. ESP takes many forms, from the conventional ability to move objects with one's mind to the more abstract perception of spirits or demons. In either case, a psychic's brain has an extra channel of worldly perception that ordinary humans lack. This can be extremely useful or detrimental, given that psychic abilities are innate, and one cannot simply choose not to learn them. Instead, the best a psychic can do is learn to manage and harness their unique powers. Given that mages strive to study mystery, knowledge of ESP can be just as valuable as learning new spells. The way that Magecraft interacts with the human body is fascinating. Thus, for our next lesson, I aim to discuss various magical procedures. Most prominently, the spiritual healing practiced by Kirei Kotomine. Thanks for watching!
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to Otaku Daikun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of our anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or our YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like exclusive vids and early access.
As always, celebrate your fandom! I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, Elise Trash for Skinko, Stephen Elak, Samuel Gersten, The Nonchalant Ostrich, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Olympian Doll, Lord Omagoden, Freebrick, RNG or Shuffles 1498, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Link Pendrago, King Kobo, Observer Bellis, Flash Daniel, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Matthew McAfee, Game King 352, Caitlin P, Vladimirovna, Jonathan Badua, The Taz 96, President Irina Vladimirovna Putina, Maxwell's Demon, Kengo X77, SF Giants Fan Mike, and Akakaze Yume. Thank you all so much.